What's up? It's me, Prime Time. Yeah, me. You know. Yeah, looking all old. Anyways, let's watch this video. Top 10 or 10 best heel turns in wrestling. Obviously, The Rock might have to be on there. From when he was Rocky Maivia, Happy Rocky, to Die Rocky, Die Rocky, to If You Smell Rocky, to the Corporate Rock, till If You Smell, If You Smell, till It's a cupcake. Delete. Okay, now let's get it.
Damn, it feels good to be the bad guy. There are many things that go into making a fine heel turn. The shock factor, the right.
Oh yeah, Seth Rollins was good too.
The music the heels be lumbered with. However, the most important factor is
Hulk Hogan. Yep.
Justified.
I forgot Hulk Hogan.
The more uncomfortable and angry it makes the fans. Like when I super kicked
Shawn Michaels when he
just protecting my spot at the
Shawn
top
Michaels
of the channel,
when he put
line, just like
Marnie Jannetty through the barbershop.
Like stepping up and
Let's
chatting
see.
bold. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 best heel turns in wrestling history. Number 10, Orndorff clotheslines Hogan. If you're going to turn bad,
Mr. Wonderful,
the biggest babyface in wrestling.
Okay.
Mr. Wonderful, aka Paul Orndorff, despite battling Hogan in a tag match at the first ever WrestleMania, soon became the Hulkster's tag partner and one of the top babyfaces in the country. However, cracks began to show when Adrian Adonis began referring to Orndorff as Hulk Jr. Oh, look how small he is. Orndorff's frustrations with Hogan played out carefully and deliberately, including famously phoning Hulkster live on TV, only to be told, sorry, he's too busy working out to talk. Ouch. Mr. Wonderful eventually pulled the trigger on his turn and clotheslined Hogan after a match, leading to a half-year feud that included a show in Toronto that drew 70,000 fans.
I got a Mr. Wonderful Tops card.
Main event where both men
it's right here. You know what?
The heel turn and what followed was a huge critical and commercial success for WWF. Number 9, Flair turns on Sting. Oh, Sting, you idiot. There's a
can't get it. Dang it. Anyways,
because all his partners turn on him. Lex Luger, Bret Hart, Randy Savage, Scott Steiner's dogs. Everyone turns
sounds like
on
Becky
Sting,
Lynch. You're right, Sting. Becky's got your back.
The best of the best, however, has to be Ric Flair double-crossing Sting at Halloween Havoc 1995. I mean, Flair made his living in the early 90s being a massive dick to Sting, yet somehow he convinced him to team up with him to face
wait, is that match when he was in when he was in this?
Then Flair was injured before the match, so Sting had to fight half the match by himself. Yep, all cool so far. So out comes Flair halfway through the match,
when he was okay, I remember. I know this. I remember this.
Yeah, apron, cheering on his partner, and it takes an agonizing 10 whole minutes for Sting to finally make the tag. He does, and the first thing Flair does is clock Sting in the face, because it's Ric Flair.
Woo!
Number 8, Jericho smashes Michaels, the quintessential example of a
bad
guy being completely justified in his actions.
During
the match of Backlash between HBK and Batista, Michaels faked a knee injury to somehow pick up the win. Jericho was the ref for that match, and the deception annoyed.
I remember that.
Later, somehow, Michaels managed to convince Y2J that he was actually hurt, before then super kicking him to prove that he wasn't. Oh, Shawn, you little confusing monkey. Despite Jericho being completely in the right in this situation and HBK being completely in the wrong, the fans still cheered Michaels and booed Y2J. After all, the injustice was too much.
Jericho right through that Jeritron.
Highlight reel low blowing him and sending his face crashing.
Right through that Jeritron.
What followed then was the best feud of 2008.
Oh man.
Number 7, The Barbershop.
Shawn Michaels. Yep. I told you I was gonna be on there.
In fact, it led to one of the best singles careers in the history of professional wrestling. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty were a flamboyant team of acrobatic goofs who wore bad clothes.
Man, let me tell you.
Cheaty found out a team can have all the chemistry in the world, but there comes a time when the more charismatic of the two must seize the spotlight. In one of Brutus the
I saw Marty Jannetty wrestle live.
That's hard to say. In 1992,
so he wrestled the Miz.
Committed the ultimate act of cowardice and trying to escape through a window. Will you stop?
Oh my
HBK
God.
actually super kicked his buddy.
Super kicked the mess out of him and sent him through the window.
To huge success.
And then the dude was like, he tried to run away through the glass.
Double turn. It's rare, but when done right, it can be storytelling.
Oh yeah,
perfection.
Stone Cold
One
turned
man
face,
enters into a
Brett
match
turned
face, the
heel.
other heel, and both men lead, having swapped sides. Del Rio and Dolph Ziggler pulled it off at Payback 2013, but the best example in wrestling history was Bret Hart and Steve Austin's no DQ submission match at WrestleMania 13. Hart's
the blood running
no-nonsense
down his
goody
face.
two-shoes shtick had started to wear thin, while Austin's no-nonsense heel persona was resonating with the 90s crowd. In the match itself, Hart beat Austin by slapping the sharpshooter on him, but the rattlesnake never submitted.
Man,
Instead,
Shamrock
opting
looked like
to
he was
pass
on
into his
drugs,
blood,
man.
fans
Steroids or
cheering
something.
his resilience. The Hitman then continued the assault after the match, cementing him as the bad guy and Austin as the unlikely hero. Demonstrated purely through action rather than words, this was a turn booked to perfection.
Yep.
Number 5, the Mega Powers
Randy
explode.
Savage. Okay,
Now, this
okay,
is an
Mega
example
Powers,
of long-term storytelling at its best. The story lasted for a full year and a half. Sure,
Nah,
it was difficult
this
for
feud
a long time,
lasted.
but looking back, everything
Feud lasted all the way up until
in
Randy
October
Savage died.
1987,
That's how
Hogan
long
and
it
Savage had this
lasted.
infamous handshake to become allies, combining Hulkamania with macho madness and a wonderful cocktail of terrible mental problems. A few months later at WrestleMania 4, Randy Savage won the WWF Championship following an assist from the Hulkster, fending off Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase. Savage and the Hulkster face off against those two men again at SummerSlam, in the process officially dubbing themselves the Mega Powers. However, Hogan began acting a little too friendly with Miss Elizabeth for Randy's liking, with Savage showing frustration at this at Survivor Series. Then at Royal Rumble, Hogan accidentally eliminated Savage whilst eliminating Bad News Brown, and the two almost came to blows. Finally, the break happened when a paranoid Savage turned heel, attacking Hogan in February on an NBC special, The Main Event. So, at WrestleMania 5, 18 months after they first shook hands and a year since Savage first won the title, the two men faced off at WrestleMania for the gold, having told an incremental but perfectly plotted story of Savage turning to the dark side. Number 4, ZBYSZKO betrays his mentor. Now this took place
Bruno Sammartino?
years ago, but it's still recognizable.
Well, he betrayed Bruno Sammartino.
Larry ZBYSZKO, with a name on the Mr. Mixer's Pitlick scale of being hard to spell, was trained by the legendary Bruno Sammartino and was widely regarded as his protege. In an attempt to escape his teacher's shadow, ZBYSZKO challenged Sammartino to a match in 1980. Larry couldn't out-wrestle his mentor, and his frustrations got the better of him, attacking Sammartino with a wooden chair and leaving him to bleed heavily. In a time when many still believed wrestling was real, ZBYSZKO became the most hated man in the sport. His car was vandalized, taxis he traveled in were overturned, he was hit by a fan with an iron pole, and even stabbed in the bum by a crazed Brunoholic after a match. Now that is a heel turn.
Jeez.
Number 3, the Freebirds attack the Von Erichs. The 5-man wrestling family, the Von Erichs, are remembered for two things. One, the tragic circumstances whereby all but one of the 5 brothers died within 1 decade. And, much more positive, their lauded rivalry with the fabulous Freebirds. The Von Erich boys were noble and pure, the Freebirds were cocky and flamboyant. And their 6-man matches in Texas in the 1980s were the stuff of legends. And it all began with a heel turn. Freebird Michael Hayes, this guy was babyface at the time and made special enforcer in a cage match between Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair. At one point, Hayes clocked Flair and left him for Kerry to pin, but the Von Erich refused. Not that way. Taking offense at such elitism, Hayes left, and when Kerry went after him, fellow Freebird Terry Gordy smashed the cage door into his face. The Freebirds were loathed in Texas ever since, and this act of barbarism almost started a riot. Number 2, Andre rips a shirt. Hulk Hogan has really nice shirts. Like, he has really nice shirts. Andre the Giant was one of the most universally beloved figures in wrestling. A giant man with a giant heart, they said, which is also partly what killed him, but let's move on. In 1987, Andre's health had begun to deteriorate, and
that's not funny, man. That is not funny.
Huge status. Despite being babyface for 15 years, the bold decision was to turn him heel and put him against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3. How? Well, it all happened on Piper's Pit. Hogan had been presented with a giant trophy for being WWF champion for 3 years, and Andre got a much smaller one for being undefeated for his entire career, which he technically wasn't, but shut up. Upset at receiving a smaller surrogate penis than the blonde guy, Andre hired the weasel Bobby Heenan to be his manager, challenged Hulk to a match at Mania, then ripped Hogan's shirt. The absolute French bastard. It ranks so highly, not just for being absurdly shocking to see eternal babyface Andre go bad, but it also led to one of the most iconic moments in pro wrestling history, the slamming of the giant. Number 1, Hogan is the third man.
Oh yeah,
Talk about it being shocking when Andre
Outsiders.
Went bad,
Okay.
that worked nothing on the Hulkster.
Yeah,
The
he went to the end. He went to the end. W.
decade. Throughout the 80s and the early 90s, the Red and Yellow Warrior had forever been a babyface, telling kids to eat their vitamins, say their prayers, and whatever it was that Pasta Mania was all about. At Bash at the Beach 1996, after Scott Hall and Kevin Nash defected from WWF to WCW,
bro, they beat up the whole roster. They beat up the whole roster, bro. That was crazy.
Finally telling the fans who'd loved him for over a decade to stick it. Seriously, this is like if Jesus turned heel by stabbing Santa. Well, not really, truth be told. Good Hulk had been rubbing older fans the wrong way for a while, and in a lesson that WWE steadfastly refuses to learn, instead of having fans divided behind a babyface, they chose to have fans united against a heel. And with the NWO, fronted by Hollywood Hulk Hogan, WCW set the wrestling scene on fire, pummeling their rivals WWF into the dirt.
Up in here,
now, if you'll excuse me,
up in
I'm off
here,
to give that
we
little
on
toddler Jack
fire.
another righteous beating. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.
That was a good list. I thought Rocky was going to be in there, but you know he wasn't. You know that's okay. Well, Fresh Prince. Anyways, Brown time is all the time.